Alright, what's up y'all? It's Brad here. As y'all can see by the title of today's video, we're here to talk about what could have been if the Lakers went no trades, no free agency, just all draft, got Clarkson, D'Lo, Ingram, Randle, Kuzma, Lonzo, all of the above. What could have been with all 13 players being just Lakers draft picks. Now, the reason I'm bringing you guys this video in the first place is what went down tonight. So straight up, Julius Randle with 44 points, Clarkson with 40, 29 minutes at that as well, beating the Sixers with Ben Simmons scoring 42 with no Embiid as well. But Clarkson himself is having a ridiculous year. 18 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, barely averaging really any minutes per game. He's coming off the bench as the sixth man. And then with Randle, unreal year. Like, this dude is having a career year. 23 points, 11 rebounds, and then 5 assists per game as well. And he's really been doing that for the last couple of years as well. Just straight up killing it with the stats and stuff. Now, all I ever get in reply from Knicks fans and stuff like that who actually watch every game. Now, me, myself, I don't actually watch every Knicks game. I try to tune in a little bit just to see what Randle's up to as well. But a lot of these guys have always told me that Randle's kind of more just a stat stuffer, doesn't really produce and really doesn't do much for the team. Me, myself, I don't really know whether that's true or not. I haven't watched enough games to really know whether that's the case. But either way, I mean, look at this dude, bro. Randle's out here shooting 7 threes in the night. Who would have thought? Like, rewind 4 years ago, 5 years ago, who would have thought this dude Randle would be sniping from 3? And honestly, what was even craziest the most is that through like 10 games of the season or something like that, he had the highest 3-point percentage in the whole league. Like, I think it was literally around like 56, 57, something like that. Either way, my whole point is, you got these guys on this picture right here that are straight up just killing it in the league right now. So to talk a little bit about what this team would actually look like, it'd likely be a starting backcourt of D'Lo and Lonzo. I would assume Clarkson would come off the bench in the exact same role that he's in and essentially kind of mimic what Utah's got going on, where they got Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell starting in the backcourt with Clarkson coming off the bench. It'd pretty much be the exact same thing. It's just obviously neither of these guys are really Donovan Mitchell, and honestly, Lonzo would probably produce about the same as Mike Conley, in my opinion. But either way, to talk about who would be the best player on the team, work down from number 1 to like number 5, I would say it'd probably be between Ingram and Randle for the best player on the team. Obviously, the way Randle's producing this year would look like the number 1 player, but with all that said, I feel like it's kind of a big 3, so to say, I feel like it'd be Randle, Ingram, and D'Lo, essentially making up the big 3. Then around that, we would have Lonzo, Kuzma, and Clarkson as pretty much the core 6 right here. Now, with that said, none of these 6 best players right here between Randle, Kuzma, Clarkson, Ingram, D'Lo, Lonzo, none of them are actual centers, and the only one that actually plays as a big, so to say, would be Randle, that even plays at power forward. All these guys otherwise pretty much play small forward, guard, guard, guard. Now, on that note, I do feel like a lot of people really sleep on these bigs that we've drafted, these 3 right here. So Thomas Bryant is absolutely producing for the Wizards. We'll go back to some stats real quick. So as for Thomas Bryant, you can see he's averaging 14, 6, gets quite a bit of minutes with the Wizards. He's been out with an injury. I'm not exactly sure what the injury is, but as you can see, through his whole career, this man's been a sniper from 3, except for the 1 year with LA, where really, I mean, he played 15 games, got 5 minutes per game, and scored 1.5 points per game. So clearly, you know, he's not really getting his minutes or anything like that, or just getting any time to play. Now, with all this said as well, you could see this year averaging 43% from 3. And then I gotta say, with the Lakers scouting department, they are just absolutely knocking it out the park when it comes to late round picks, whether it's Kuzma, Clarkson, Larry Nance. I guess Kuzma obviously was like a late first round pick, but either way, in the NBA, late first round picks usually are just gonna end up to not really amount to anything. And I gotta say, with the way that we've been drafting with late first round picks with Mo Wagner or Thomas Bryant right here in the 2nd round, Clarkson in the 2nd round, Kuzma late 1st, Nance I believe was either late 1st or early 2nd, something like that. But either way, absolutely just kill it when it comes to late round scouting department. So now just to detail the season that a couple of these players that I haven't mentioned are having, like Brandon Ingram, D'Angelo Russell, Lonzo Ball, etc., stuff like that. We'll go down the list just a little bit, then we'll come back to the picture of all the players and just kind of overview everything with all that said, and just talk about what that team might actually amount to, or where they would get with the playoffs or standings, whatever it may be. So with Brandon Ingram, we're averaging 24, 5, and 5. Honestly, doing almost the exact same thing that Randle is, just, you know, a bit more points, a bit less rebounds, a bit less assists, which is actually kind of crazy to think about. Randle, low-key, does be having the ball in transition a lot. But either way, again, great pick right here, number 2 overall. And then I don't want to be showing you guys these whole like splits when it comes to seasons and stuff like this. I know this is a very hard stat line to read, and it probably lacks your interest in the video and stuff like that. But essentially, throughout his whole career, he's pretty much been averaging about 5 rebounds per game, about 3 to 4 assists per game. And now this right here is especially what I want to talk about. Fans and teams need to stop giving up on players so early in their career. So I remember it all the way back to Ingram's rookie year. Everybody was dogging him, talking about this dude was trash, was a complete bust, just garbage in general. I mean, I think this is the year that Brogdon won Rookie of the Year or something like that as well, which rightfully so. Ingram didn't produce worth anything in this. And then I think Simmons was in the draft as well, if I'm not mistaken, but obviously he missed the first year. Now, I don't really remember whether Simmons and Ingram were in the same draft class or not. Somebody in the comments can feel free to correct me on that. But anyway, to get back on track right here, obviously you can see, I mean, literally getting 30 minutes per game and only producing like 9 points per game with all that, 40% from field goal, under 30% from three. Now we fast forward to the last 2 seasons with the Pelicans, almost 40% from three, 46% from the field goal, which obviously still isn't amazing or anything like that, but averaging 24 points per game through 2 seasons. Absolutely just killing it, bro. Like, this dude is over here blossoming into literally almost next tier superstar of just like, you know, literally like tier 2, tier 3 superstar essentially. Or I guess we'll just call that a star. So next up we got D'Lo averaging about 20 and 5, teamed up with Cat and Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. Now I gotta say, that's gonna be a nice young trio right there, but I do think if they would have drafted LaMelo with that first overall pick instead of Edwards, that would have been a nasty, nasty young trio, I gotta say. And Anthony Edwards is still, obviously, like I was just talking about with Ingram, you cannot give up on these players so early and just act like it's the end of the world just because they're not producing early on, because you could see the development like Ingram, where he's went from literally averaging 9 points per game in 30 minutes in his rookie year to 26, 25 over the last 2 years. Now, with all this said, obviously the progression of D'Lo, it's kind of like gone a little bit seesaw, so to say. So with LA, obviously he wasn't really doing too much, whether it was minutes, just obviously this was Kobe's last 2 years. So he was kind of just stuck in the rotation. Obviously we know he probably wasn't getting the amount of shots that he probably needed to be the efficient scoring machine that he wanted to be, that he was in Brooklyn. Now speaking on Brooklyn, obviously in the first season only averaged 15 points per game still, which is very similar to what he was doing in the first 2 seasons with LA. Now, with all that said, the next season, he led Brooklyn to the playoffs, pretty much. I would say he was literally at the front of that team, of just kind of the star of the team. Now, obviously, that Brooklyn squad was pretty, like, deep. It's almost what I'm talking about with LA right here, where it really wasn't so top-heavy, but that number 2, 3, and 4 on the roster was really good for a 2, 3, and 4. Now, in 2019, he becomes a free agent, signs with Golden State. Now, I gotta say, I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of this. I was really hoping he would have come back to LA in that free agency year as well, but with all that said, Golden State probably paid him more money than anybody else could have. And the problem with that, though, is I already knew as soon as he signed right there, and I think a lot of people knew, he was just going to get signed right here, and he was going to be at the mercy of wherever Golden State wanted to move him to, and that happens to be Minnesota, and now he's just been there. Now, with all this said, I really do think that was where D'Lo's career kind of just took a turn for the worst, I would say. I think him being on a team like Brooklyn, or being with the Warriors, essentially, was great for his career. Now, obviously, was that going to be permanent? No, not at all. And obviously now he's in Minnesota, kind of just, you know, casually doing his thing, so to say. Not really going anywhere with Minnesota, even though they have Cat and Anthony Edwards as well. It's going to take a little while for them to get good. So next up we have Lonzo. Now there's going to be a lot of split opinions on this when it comes to how people gauge him as a player. A lot of people think he's a complete bust. Me personally, I see the value in him on the defensive end as well, and the fact that the Pelicans just straight up do not use him the right way. This dude needs to be used as a true point guard. He straight up just gets thrown into the corner half the time and really doesn't do anything. Now, part of that is because of how great Ingram has become, and they want to involve him as a superstar, so to say. And then obviously, you know, whether it be the other guard play between, I think, Bledsoe and Drew Holiday and stuff like that over the years, this year being Bledsoe, last year Holiday, whatever it may be. Obviously, he's kind of just been always at the back seat, so to say, of an offense, whether it's with LeBron in LA or, like I said, with Holiday in his first year of the Pelicans, and then with Bledsoe this year. But as you can see, throughout his whole career, he's pretty much averaging 10 points per game, this year being 14 almost. But the weird thing is with the minutes, right? In his rookie year, 34, it decreases throughout the whole rest of his career. Now, obviously, I think if he gets traded to a team that actually uses him as a real point guard, like I think if he was on the Knicks right now, I don't know what to think of it because D Rose is going to be on the Knicks pretty soon, and maybe he's going to start producing really well for them as a PG. I know Quickly's been actually progressing really quickly as well, so, no pun intended, but honestly, I just would like to see him with a team like Orlando, the Knicks or something, who are just a point guard away, like an actual playmaking point guard away from maybe being contenders in the East, as far as at least being a playoff team. Now, with all that said, obviously, the Knicks are already a playoff team in the East, it's looking like. But either way, I'd like to see Lonzo go somewhere that they would actually use his talents for. And you can see the three-point percentage is increasing throughout the course of his career. 30 to 33 to 37 to 38. But either way, to come back to the picture of this actual team right here as a whole, there's a lot of pieces on this that I think would be legitimate, actual huge contributors to the team. And then with all that said as well, guys like Caruso, who are rotational players for the Lakers already, or Horton-Tuckler, who is actually getting minutes on the Lakers right now. These are guys that really might even just kind of fall back into the fray and really not get many minutes at all because of just the backcourt depth and stuff like that, and especially the wing depth as well. Now, like I said, the weakness to this team would obviously be big man. If they were really bad for like another year, they probably would just draft another solid big. I don't know what options there really are. I know there's not been a lot of great bigs to come out of the draft the last like 4 years besides Wiseman, and they're not going to be that bad for 4 years at that point. But anyway, let's get to the point. Where do I think this Lakers squad would be in the West as far as the standings and the playoff picture? Now, to just survey a couple options right here, we got the Suns that are super young besides Chris Paul, but obviously D-Book, Ayton, Bridges, stuff like that. These guys are super young. I really don't see any difference when it comes to those teams besides maybe a little bit of talent, as far as D-Book is obviously a better player than anybody on that list that I showed with Lakers, but I don't know if it's really that far apart between him and Ingram or between him and Randle, etc., stuff like that. I really don't think Devin Booker's that much higher on a superstar tier list than those guys. And with all that said, I do think their big three of Ayton, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker, it's not too far off when it comes to the talent you'd find with Randle, Ingram, and D'Angelo Russell. And then the depth on Phoenix is pretty similar to what that Lakers squad would look like. So I would say low-key, I think they could find themselves placed about right here between San Antonio, Portland, and Phoenix. But obviously then you have teams that are talented that are just kind of underperforming, like the Nuggets, where really they should be at like the 4 seed at least, something like that, which they're not too far off. Obviously it's only 2 games. But with all that said, I think they would easily still be a playoff team within this top 8 seeds right here. I do think that Lakers squad is just flat out better than this Warriors team right here and would end up, especially because of depth in just the regular season, being a better team in general. But now let's just talk about where this would be in the East, because flat out where I think a team like this would actually become a thing and, not be all traded away and not let go in free agency would be a team that's not the Lakers, where the Lakers are just a huge market. Obviously, with the way that the team is built year to year, every single time the Lakers become good, it's honestly never through the draft. It's always free agency trades, etc., stuff like that. And I think if a team like the Pacers or the Hornets or the Magic, like a small market team that obviously doesn't have the appeal and attraction when it comes to big time free agents, if they were to make this team happen and actually draft this way, or if the Lakers scouting department was in this situation, or if they got lucky like the Lakers did with the lottery, which is a conspiracy to talk about another day. But anyway, where would this team be? I mean, honestly, it's kind of crazy that the East is so bad, like as far as top heaviness. So really, I feel like that team could easily be slotted in like the 4 seed right here. But as far as contention wise, I think that still holds true. I think they could still compete with teams like the Celtics or the Pacers, the Knicks, Hornets, obviously, Raptors, Bulls, Heat. I mean, really the East is just flat out bad aside from like these top 2 to 3 teams. But are they contenders in the East? No, not really. I mean, honestly, these guys are still not messing with either of these 3 top teams right here. But I do think they could at least secure maybe a top 4 seed, maybe be like a 5 or 6, something like that. Either way, I think this team would be super fun to watch in the first place. Obviously, they're not like title contenders like the current Lakers are. So yes, I understand the current Lakers are flat out just a better team. But straight up, I do think this would be a really fun team to watch, whether it's the Showtime playmaking between Lonzo and then obviously the scoring that D'Lo, Ingram, Clarkson all give you, Kuzma as a wing. And we haven't even talked about some fan favorites either. So Larry Nance, Josh Hart, Caruso, etc., Talen Horton-Tuckler, these guys are some of my favorite players to play for the team over the course of the years because, like I said, I'm just kind of like a fan favorite of like the underdogs, the people who flat out got drafted pretty late or, have a really cool story. And like I said, Nance, Hart, Caruso, Talen, I mean, they're all pretty much either free agency pickups or really late in the draft. And then you got guys like Clarkson that I was a huge fan of from the start, or Julius Randle, one of our first draft picks to actually build this squad right here. And then we got D'Lo, who obviously had his trials and tribulations as far as the struggles. Same with Ingram. A lot of these guys, pretty much the way I see it is I really like what they embody as far as their whole career goes, where pretty much they were all slept on or they got drafted early and kind of failed early on. For instance, with these top 4 guys right here, Lonzo Ball, obviously the number 2 overall pick, D'Angelo Russell, number 2, Brandon Ingram, number 2, Julius Randle, I think was number 6, I believe. I'm not exactly positive on that, but either way, these guys all right here, top 2 picks, number 2, number 2, number 2. And straight up, I mean, a lot of doubt, a lot of hate was thrown their way, and yet obviously, Lonzo Ball hasn't really become what he needs to be yet, but I do think, again, I'm not one to just quickly throw criticism of players' way and call their career over when I can clearly see the talent. I mean, he's still a great playmaker. He's improving as a shooter. He's a great defender as well that a lot of people don't give him credit for. And then obviously really good instincts on rebounding, passing, all types of stuff like that. I think he's a great player that is in a bad spot and a bad opportunity. Same way that D'Angelo Russell was with the Lakers still, and then when he went to Brooklyn, I feel like he found himself. Same way that Ingram was with the Lakers, and then he found himself in New Orleans. Same way that Julius Randle was in LA. And honestly, he started to ball out in LA in his final season. I remember that as well. But with all that said, these guys have gone to new teams and are straight up just killing it in these spots. And I really wonder sometimes what it would look like if they were all brought together in a cumulative aspect. So that's all for the video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, to drop a like, sub if you're new, turn on the noties, all that good stuff. I don't know what to put for a like goal on this one, considering it's the first ever upload on the channel. It's gonna be super dope that people can look back at this one as the first video ever on this channel as well. I'm really hoping for the longevity of this, that it succeeds and does really well. I have really not much for expectations, but really high hopes, so to say. So with that said, let's try and get this one to at least 300 likes in the first 24 hours. I'm not sure if that's possible or not. I'm not sure how many people are going to support from the main LakerFan channel. For those who don't know and somehow are seeing this potentially, I have a 2K channel. So if you want to check that out as well for some 2K content periodically here and there, feel free to check that out as well. But like I said, for all you guys who came over to this video right here from the main channel and showed support and just watched all the way through, I really do appreciate you a ton. You guys are major key and super important for the growth of this new goal that I'm going for when it comes to the YouTube stuff. So straight up, I really do appreciate you. Like I said on the main channel as well, if you don't have a lot of interest in this type of content, feel free not to subscribe. I want people who are going to be super loyal and dedicated to this channel for algorithm reasons and stuff like that. YouTube is just not a big fan of, you know, lacking support from your subscribers, so to say, as I've come to realize. So with all that said, if you are a real supporter with this stuff or a real supporter of me and you really want to go hard for like really being helpful when it comes to the videos and stuff like that, really would appreciate your support. But like I said, if you're somebody who's going to be kind of flaky with it, feel free to just watch periodically whenever you want, but you know, not subscribe. Anyway, that's all for the video. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you made it to the very end, put LA in the comments, search supports made it all the way through. Other than that, hope y'all enjoyed. Take it easy, man. Peace.